What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the new and improved and restarted Second Stringers podcast.
Yeah, excited to go again. NFL season is just underway. Week 1 just finished and wrapped up last night. I'm looking forward to talking about it and kind of dissecting each game. Into it with San Francisco and Tampa Bay. So this game was probably one of the more dull games in week 1, to be honest. But nonetheless, San Francisco beat Tampa Bay 31-17. I have 2 takeaways from this game. The first one being with San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo knows how to play football. The second one is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jameis Winston, it's a make or break year, and he came out looking awful. He needs to play better. He did not look good, but Tampa Bay nothing was a surprise here. Tampa Bay came in, got beat by a team that's better than them. I mean, I don't have too much to say on it. What about you, Will?
So my first question for you is, which pick six was your favorite? There was 3 in this game, so which was it the one where Jimmy G threw one where he literally just stared at a guy and then threw it, and the corner literally caught it in stride and walked into the end zone? What about the one where Jameis just literally threw it to a guy on a screen?
Oh, that one was bad. I think
that one might. Yeah, Jameis was not great. And then my second takeaway from this game was George Kittle continues to lead the NFL in touchdowns called back on penalties. He had 2 in this game. I mean, thank God I don't have this guy on my fantasy team. It seems like every single game this guy scores a touchdown that doesn't count because he plays on a team that doesn't know what they're doing half the time. But
yeah, that's very true.
I mean, it's almost comical every time the guy scores a touchdown. He barely even celebrates anymore because he knows.
He always looks back and just makes sure.
There's going to be some random, like one of them was a legal formation because the tackle didn't call in. Like,
yeah, and he celebrated on that one too.
Just like the stupidest thing.
That was funny.
Oh man, but I don't even know what to say. The takeaway from this game is that Jameis is bad. Like,
yeah.
If Bruce Arians can't fix you as Jameis Winston, like where is Jameis Winston playing this year? Like, he's going to be out of the league here. Like,
yeah, it's looking like it. This is his kind of last shot, I think, and
it's
not looking good.
Is Jameis Winston going to be the first player to be the first pick in the NFL draft and the XFL draft? Like,
that's good. I like that. Put that on a t-shirt.
But yeah, Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
that was
not a great game.
The king of horrendous picks, where you just look at him, we're like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, just not a great game in general.
That pick on the screen pass, like, we're making fun of him, but like, that was one of those ones where you literally cannot make that throw if you're an NFL quarterback. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. You're getting paid millions of dollars to not make that
Like,
throw.
How are you in year 5 and you're still making that decision? Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, oh man. I feel sorry for Bucs fans. I don't know what they did to deserve a guy who is in his 5th year and still makes decisions that are terrible for a rookie.
Yeah, that's very true.
Like, if Kyler threw that pick, or Minshew when he got in for the Jags, or like if any of the rookies threw that pick, you're like, man, that was bad. But like, what can you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But man, throws it in a trash on the screen. Yeah. Oh man. I feel bad for Bucs fans. I don't know.
Moving from that very boring game to another very kind of dull game. If you cheer for any of the other teams other from the Patriots, the New England-Pittsburgh game, the blowout.
Was there a more disappointing performance in Week 1 than the Steelers? Like, I'm like seriously.
No, and that's my takeaway from this. It was garbage. It did not look good for them. They have a lot to figure out. And my other takeaway is New England did that without Antonio Brown. It's going to be a long year. So I hate talking about New England. I hate it. But Pittsburgh, they just need to improve. I mean, Juju had a couple good plays, a couple bad ones. James Conner, I don't think is a true number one running back. That's just me personally. Big Ben made a couple mistakes. Their defense didn't look up to par. But yeah, I think my big takeaway is New England did that without Antonio Brown. I mean, it's going to be a long year.
Is there a Hall of Fame quarterback capable of regular worse performances than Ben? Like,
no.
I can't even think of a guy who's a surefire Hall of Famer who just like once or twice a year just plays a game where you're just like,
I mean, you can book him in for 2 or 3 for sure.
What the hell was that? Yeah, he was. Oh man, they were so bad in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, the play that symbolized this entire game was the false start where this literally the entire team went and the center didn't snap the ball.
That was funny.
And Al Michaels is literally just mocking the Steelers on national television, laughing at them.
Yeah, that's funny.
I mean, what more can you say about Pittsburgh other than like what the hell was that? I mean, I don't even want to talk about Pittsburgh. It was that bad. So my takeaway from this game was the Patriots defense is unbelievable. I mean, we've seen years where the Patriots will go up 30 points on you in the third quarter or whatever, and they'll give up 2 garbage time touchdowns just because they're playing prevent and whatever, and who cares? But basically the exact touchdowns Atlanta scored against Minnesota. But this secondary is so freaking good. You can't even throw against them when they're in prevent. like Stephon Gilmore, unbelievable. The McCourties, Chung. How is Chung playing? I thought whatever. Like he got arrested for cocaine possession, but somehow he's playing still. Whatever. But
that's a classic New England there.
The secondary is ludicrous.
Yep.
I mean, what more can you say? They sacked Ben once, and he was just standing back there with literally nowhere to go with the ball the entire game. It was unbelievable how good they were in coverage. It's terrifying that they're adding Antonio Brown when they might have the best defense in the league, especially when you look at the secondary.
Josh Gordon playing that well at the same time as well. They're going to be dangerous.
It's hard to imagine a world where the Patriots aren't at minimum playing in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not the Super Bowl because Kansas City is pretty crazy and pretty special, and Mahomes is something else. But I mean, I don't know if you can see a world like last year. You could have seen them losing in the second round. They were just a year away, but now they've completely revamped this team. They're young, they're fast, and they have a defense for the first time in. I literally maybe since the 2007 team where you watch them and you're like, this defense is unbelievable.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you on that.
As John Middlecoff said, Belichick made the best hire of the offseason when he hired himself as defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's a good line. That's very true, though. But New England's going to be dangerous. Pittsburgh, got to pick it up.
I mean, what the hell, man?
Moving on to the next week. This one is what I referred to as Christmas for Will earlier in the episode. Probably why he's wearing his Saints jersey. The New Orleans versus Houston Texans game. This was last night, the early game for Monday night. It was a awesome game to watch. I loved it. Especially the last 5 minutes was some of the most exciting 5 minutes of football I've seen in a while. I mean, so back and forth with New Orleans, putting down a hell of a drive, and then Houston following it up with an unbelievable drive. Deshaun Watson just looking like what everybody thought he was going to be coming out of Clemson. And then New Orleans, Drew Brees following it up. Couple huge passes. They showed that they're a legit team. They kick a huge field goal, like 50 some yards to win 57. The game. 57 yards, broke his career long on it.
You gotta love it.
That was awesome. But my takeaway from the game is the Texans are good.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson's good. He got hit a lot, way too much on 40% of the plays in the game. Thanks, Colin Cowherd, for that one. But he's good. The Texans are good. They got robbed, but they're going to be good this year. I think they still look like they're going to get a lot of wins. They still are lining up for a playoff spot nicely. But New Orleans, they finally won they got a clutch game. I mean, they never get those, so it's nice to see him get one.
First week 1 win since 2013.
There you
go. Before I even talk about the Saints, I think the NFL Network should have to take back their top 100 list for actually publishing a list, even if that was the result from the players voting where Baker Mayfield was ahead of Deshaun Watson. That's criminal. Yeah. Deshaun Watson was absolutely unbelievable in this game. I mean, the amount of 3rd and longs they converted where he just made a freaky play was just, I mean, it was almost uncountable how many times he did it. It was unbelievable. The guy is an absolute superstar. And, I mean, if you're a Texans fan, I don't know how you can't feel just ecstatic having that guy on your team. I mean, obviously you're concerned about the hits. I don't think he's going to take as many because, frankly, starting an offensive lineman 5 days after you trade for him is just asking to get screwed on blitz calls because, like, he has no idea what their blitz pickups are. It's just too much too soon. But, yeah, so I don't really think there's a takeaway on Tunzel because, like, it's just way too early to know how he's going to fit into this team. But Deshaun's just an absolute superstar. I mean, that drive he had at the end of the game, 3 throws, see you later, touchdown. Like,
oh, that was impressive.
Like, good night. And then the read option for the touchdown. I mean, the guy made about 5 plays that I don't know if he's the only guy in the league who can make them, but he might be. Like, he's
one
a freak.
Of them.
He's an absolute freak. Hopkins is unbelievable. I mean, Hopkins had 3 drops, and it felt like he played terrible when he was maybe the best player on the field, even with how good Deshaun was. Like, but yeah, the Texans have so much talent that even as good as Tennessee looked, I think it's got to be their division to lose. Really, like, their secondary is weak, and they got exposed for that multiple times. And their defensive play calling was pretty terrible, especially towards the end of the game. But there's a lot to take away from Houston. I mean, there's not a better atmosphere to play in on the road in Houston. If you're Houston in week 1, and to see Deshaun answer the bell like that was a really positive thing for him because, I mean, the guy's answered every single test he's had in the league so far, except, I guess, a playoff game. But, yeah, he's special. And in terms of the Saints, I mean, the 2-minute defense is horrendous. Like, they need to figure that out. It's consistent and terrible when it needs to be better. Almost cost them against the Eagles, cost them against the Bucks. I mean, just countless times last year. If it didn't cost the game, it made it way closer than it should have been. I mean, couldn't get off the field against the Rams in the NFC title game. But I mean, Drew Brees is just like 37 seconds left. Is he the only quarterback who could have done that well? Like, maybe Brady, but other than, like, those are probably the only 2 guys who 37 seconds left and you don't feel safe with one timeout.
Yeah, exactly.
3 throws, they needed 35 yards, and they got exactly 35. Like, that was absolute. That was just unbelievable. I mean, because 15 yards, I think it was 15 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards for exactly 35. Like, like, I mean, and then that kick would have been good from 70.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, that was the kicker's dream right there. That was awesome.
That was a total adrenaline kick. Like, it was right down the middle. It was it would have been good by another 10 yards. Like, what a kick. But Yeah, what a ridiculous game. I mean, I don't know if that was Christmas, considering there was a lot of negatives watching that. As a Saints fan, we're pretty much incapable of playing a game that's like easy to watch.
Yeah, that's very true.
Which is it sucks, but when they come out with a win, it's a nice feeling. But yeah,
when it happens. Yeah.
I mean, needed to get that one though. The way the schedule breaks out, I mean.
Hey, at least you get your clutch wins in week 1 instead of the wild card game and stuff like that, you know?
Heading to, yeah, jeez. I mean,
sorry.
Still can't make it test. Just like D Ford. Side note, everyone should listen to the Bill Simmons podcast from last week. They had a hilarious segment where he was going on about people who they'd give a ring to in the Patriots run who weren't on the Patriots, like D Ford, who like resulted in them winning the Super Bowl because of them making a huge mistake.
That's such a good segment.
It's pretty fun.
Listen to that.
It's pretty funny. Dan Quinn and Matt Ryan got a good shout out. But yeah, as a Saints fan, I mean, I don't know what the takeaway is. Like, I guess the pass rush looked really good, but I don't know if it was because Houston's offensive line has barely played together, or if the pass rush is actually going to be around this year. It's like a classic week 1. Was it an aberration, or is this actually what's going to happen this year? So we'll see. But definitely some positives for both teams. It was unbelievable game. I don't know what more you could ask for out of a Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Atmosphere. They said it on the broadcast. I mean, there wasn't many week 1 games, or there aren't many week 1 games in general. And there weren't many this year, if any, that felt like a playoff game. The Chicago Green Bay one did in the first half. It kind of lost it because of how bad Chicago's offense was. But and then Chargers Colts felt like a playoff game. But other than that, I mean, yeah, it was a fun watch. Lots to take away from both sides. I mean,
yeah.
But the biggest one is Deshaun's a superstar. Anyone who says otherwise at this point is just kidding themselves. The guy's an
sorry. Yeah, and going back to the point you said earlier about it being their division this year, I mean, Colts, Andrew Luck retired. Jaguars, Nick Foles goes down. Texans, it's between them and the Titans and the Texans, sorry.
It's their division to lose.
It is their division to lose now.
When you make that Tunzel move where you give up 2 1s and a 2, you got to you're Super Bowl or bust. Like if they don't at a minimum, if they're not at least playing in the second round this year, I don't know how Bill O'Brien saw the job. Like seriously,
it'll be interesting.
A wild card weekend game isn't even good enough anymore at this point. Like with the moves they made, it's put up or shut up time in Houston. There's lots to build on, but there's a lot to work with there, but they still need a lot to improve. Like they're not there yet. They're not there yet, that's for sure. I mean, what is that defensive play calling on the last drive? I mean, we can talk about how great Drew was, but I mean, the last play everybody knew the Saints needed 9 yards. Why are you playing a prevent there? Like what are you
true.
Like what are you doing? Like why are you not jamming the receivers?
Yeah.
That was horrendous. I don't know what Romeo Cannella was doing there. Whatever. Big win, great game. Lots of fun, and one of the rare games I think in the NFL where there was positives on both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And then to the last game, the late Monday nighter.
Great game.
If you're on the East Coast, it started at 10 o'clock, so that was a late one. But Denver versus Oakland, dull game. I mean. Yeah, kind of a surprise with the Raiders winning, to be honest. I thought Denver was going to win, but it's good to see Oakland win, especially after Antonio Brown leaves.
Derek Carr was awesome.
Derek Carr was awesome. He's a cool guy. To be honest, I fell asleep during the game, but I watched the highlights today. They looked like a decent team. They were surprising. That's my big takeaway, but Denver, I mean, I thought that Joe Flacco was going to be better.
There's
Bottom line. That's all I got for Denver.
There's literally 3 takeaways from this game. One, Josh Jacobs is a stud. Like, oh my God, is he ever good? And like, whatever, like Derek Carr was really good. Who cares? Like, great. Like, they deserved it. What is it going to mean? They win 6 games this year? I have no idea. Or they win 7? Who knows? But I think the takeaway is the real takeaways from this game are Denver's defense was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
That's supposed to be the strength of this team, and Von Miller and Brandon Chubb. Bradley. Why did I say Brandon? I knew as soon as I said that, I was like, that was wrong.
You were close.
Von Miller and Bradley Chubb got literally 0 pressure. Like, literally 0.
Mm-hmm.
Colton Miller, who was probably the worst tackle in the NFL last year, absolutely clamped up Chubb. Like, I have no idea how that happened. And then the new addition on the far side, Brown at right tackle. Yep. Vaughn called him the best right tackle in the league a couple of years ago when the Broncos and Niners had joint practices. And I mean, he might be right. He was unbelievable against Von Miller this week. Holy crap! Derek had all day to throw. Jacobs had all kinds of space. And I guess for a week it's really positive in Oakland. But even as negative as their defense was, I'm sure their defense is going to figure out. They have a great coach with Vic Fangio. Like, he knows what he's doing coaching defense. He just does.
Yeah, exactly.
The big takeaway from this game is Joe Flacco's done. Like, he's done. Like, his career, he's washed. He's a backup now. And if you're Denver, you put all your eggs in a basket of a guy who's washed. And I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do from here.
It'll be a tough year for them, that's for sure, especially with such a great defense. But what can you do? It's you got a young quarterback sitting behind him, Drew Lock.
Who's hurt?
Hopefully. Oh, yeah, he is.
Hopefully he'll
heal up and come back in. But, yeah, no, Joe Flacco, that's not a good look for them, that's for sure. But, bottom line about the game is, just kind of a boring game. To be honest, it was what it was expected.
Yeah.
But,
I think the takeaway from this game is maybe Denver, instead of finishing 6-10 and Oakland finishing 4-12, Denver is going to be 4-12 and Oakland's going to be 6-10. Like, maybe that's the takeaway.
Denver better than they did last year. Yeah.
Oakland is absolutely improved from last year. There's no question about that Oakland is going to win games this year where they are the better team on the field, like they did on Monday, which was not the case last year. They won games last year by just almost borderline fluke. Like, really, like, seriously, that's how they won games last year.
Yeah.
And
like
so
the game against Cleveland.
The Raiders might be the weird case of winning 6 games. They're better. But it sure looks like they hit on their first 3 first-round picks. So maybe that should be the takeaway. Maybe not roasting Joe Flacco, but that Abrams looked really good. Farrell got a sack, and Jacobs looks like a stud. So maybe that's the takeaway.
The future is bright in Vegas.
Yeah, maybe that the Raiders maybe not know what they're doing because of how big of a train wreck that AB thing was. But
that's tough.
Maybe it's not as bad as we all kind of thought it was.
I'm sure Mike Mayock will figure it out. He's a smart guy.
I mean, I saw in the Ryan Russillo, Chris Long podcast, they were saying, is there anyone in the NFL, GM or head coach, you would bet on more than Mike Mayock to win in a fight to the death with all the GMs and coaches? I mean, Mike Mayock's a scary guy. He's definitely he'd be my pick. Although Sean McVay, Sean McVay's got some aggression out there.
That's fair.
He's you know who'd go further than people would give credit?
Who? Cliff Kingsbury, hey?
He grew up
that would be funny.
He grew up in a military family. That guy's going further than
I did not know that.
That guy's going further than his face would tell you.
Yep, 100%. Couldn't agree more.
He'd be the Cinderella who made it to the Elite Eight.
Damn, that's funny.
But
that's the last game that was on the plate for this week. So.
Thank God.